Hi everyone, we're gonna start doing something new on the channel. Apart from our regular video essays, we're also going to talk about movies that have just recently come out and that we recommend you should watch. The first of which is the new movie written and directed by Leigh Whannell, The Invisible Man. Also, this video doesn't contain any spoilers, only information you could have gotten from the trailer or the synopsis. The director is one of the co-creators of Saw, Insidious, but more recently, the very underrated science fiction body horror revenge movie Upgrade. And it's mainly out of our enjoyment of that movie that we were very curious to see what this director was going to do with the well-known story of The Invisible Man. As a child, I went through a Universal monster movie phase, and I have to admit, The Invisible Man never seemed to interest me as much as its other counterparts. The concept of a person coming to terms with their newfound power of invisibility seems like an interesting story to explore, but I don't really remember any of those movies coming off as thrilling or suspenseful. That's why Leigh Whannell decided to change the focus of the story to that of a character being stalked by an invisible force. I feel like some of the iconic villains that have been around for 100 years, they're safe now. They're so familiar that they're safe. What I wanted to do is make this character unsafe again, unknowable and unknown. And with that change alone, it allows the movie to explore much more fertile dramatic grounds. We follow the main character Cecilia escaping from her abusive relationship to Adrian, a very wealthy scientist. Adrian is a manipulative sociopath that promises Cecilia that he will find her if she ever leaves him. After his apparent suicide, Cecilia remains traumatized and can't help but feel that he's still out there, haunting her. The key word here is haunting. It's clear to see that they grabbed a very real fear in toxic relationships and expanded on it to create the concept of this movie. The feeling of powerlessness and of having someone trying to maintain control over your life even without them being there. The fear that your security could be interrupted or taken away at any moment. And as Elisabeth Moss puts it, it also dives into the fears of the female perspective. There's the experience that women will have just walking down the street, and you're alone and you're walking to your car, or you're walking into your house. I don't know if men do this, but I don't think they do it as much anyway. You pull out your phone to have it nearby just in case. You put your keys in your hands just in case. There's that sense of angst and danger that we've gotten used to. There are things that we can be vulnerable to that are different. We see Cecilia increasingly be tormented and isolated from her friends and family because no one believes what she's saying, making everyone doubt her sanity. The movie works as a metaphor for gaslighting and how even once you're out of a person's manipulative hold, it's still hard to get away from the psychological abuse. It's a creepy movie that will surprise you by how effective the little camera movements are going to engage you and maybe even scare you. We see how the filmmaker expanded from his last project where he used an interesting stabilized camera movement in the fight scenes to represent the unnatural, flawless motion of an AI taking over the main character's body. But in The Invisible Man, the camera movement is not meant to offer a character perspective. It's actually meant to engage the audience. You can feel the antagonist in every frame, hiding in the corners of the shots, building suspense every time the camera floats away and lingers on empty space. It gives the villain more power and makes the audience search for him and be anxious of any change in the room. This would not be as successful if they would have just used quick cuts or close-up shots. As an audience, you feel like you need to see the whole room, and even when you do, you feel the characters are not safe. The thing that comes to mind is The Invisible Man doesn't need shadows to hide in. This is not a monster that needs to hide in the darkness. He could be standing next to you in a brightly lit dentist office, and you wouldn't know. It's quite a feat to be able to make the audience afraid of negative space, even when all the lights are on, while a lot of horror movies, even good ones, would prefer keeping the lights off. The antagonist really shines by his absence. We see almost nothing of him, even when he's in a scene. He's purposely blurred out or kept at a distance. He's almost a supernatural force of psychological torment. Even the way the camera randomly pulls focus from the main character towards an empty corner can be unsettling. Although I have to mention that this film is not perfect at all. It stumbles in a few places where it tests the limits of our suspension of disbelief. But thankfully, Elisabeth Moss's portrayal of Cecilia and Leigh Whannell's motivated direction carried this movie along. Leigh Whannell doesn't just set out to make a collage of scary vignettes pushing for the next fright. He actually informed himself as much as possible to get a sincere portrayal of a character dealing with psychological abuse. And even letting Elisabeth Moss's perspective influence the final shape of the character, drawing from past experiences of women in toxic relationships. I feel for the most part their efforts shine through, bringing a different take on the 30s monster by grounding it in the fears of modern times. Definitely give it a watch, and while you're at it, check out Upgrade. It's a different feel and story, but if you like Leigh Whannell's style, you'll enjoy it as well. Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. We plan to give out more movie suggestions in the future. But in the meantime, check out our more research deep dive video essays on movies and genre. And you can also follow our Letterboxd account to get more film recommendations. Until next time.